Welcome to Intuitive Human. Our mission is to normalize intuitive experiences for humanity. We're connecting with people just like you, excavating their highly impactful, view-shifting, intuitive experiences, diving deeply into what it actually feels like when you go beyond the veil. In this interview, Kattie Maldonado shares an unshakable dream state encounter where she describes a visceral experience of dying 3 times with her grandmother as her spirit guide. We hope you see your own reflection in these stories, empirically proving intuition really does exist, and in such a way so that you may discover your own intuitive human. Hi, Kattie. Thanks so much for joining us here on Intuitive Human and to share with us how intuition works for you.
Thanks, Crystal.
Can you go ahead and just introduce yourself, tell us your name, occupation, the age you are now, and the age of when you first started noticing intuition speaking in your life?
So my name is Kattie Maldonado. I am 28 years old and I am an intuitive success coach. I started this right around, probably this awakening happened when I was 21. When I started experiencing all these things, like I had kind of a complete shutdown, takedown of emotion. Like something big happened. I broke up with my ex and I had been getting red flags since then, like little red flags that I never really paid attention to. And one of those red flags was I had a psychic tell me like, hey, you're an empath and I want you to notice that whenever you go to your boyfriend's house, that 3 days might pass and you might start throwing up or you have stomach problems. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was absolutely right. Like every time I would go to my boyfriend's house, 3 days would pass, like a week would pass, and I started experiencing all these stomach problems. And so I would get red flags like that leading up to 21. And when I turned 25, that's when, like while I was getting these red flags between 21 and 25, when I was 25, I made the decision, like I was already getting like these intuitive nudges and I started getting sick and I got sick enough that I was kind of like knocked out in depression. I couldn't wake up in the morning. I would wake up in the morning and just nothing. I started researching like what are the energetic solutions out there? And while my analytical mind was like, go to the doctor, my something else was guiding me differently into a different passageway. I invested in a Reiki course in order to perform Reiki on others. And up to this point, I'd never done Reiki, but call it intuitive guidance, because at that point, I did not know where to go, how to do it, but I was just guided. I did this course, and in this course, we got in a circle and we put our hands on each other's shoulders. And the moment that happened, I had a woman behind me who, with her right hand, I started feeling pain and just nerve pain where my shoulder was. And of course, my logical mind was like, well, you have had your shoulders up, it's nothing. And so our teacher said, okay, you guys are probably gonna get tired in a little bit, just feel the energy. And she's like, and now I want everyone like move your hands wherever you feel like you're comfortable. So I was like, okay, cool, the pain's gonna go away. And so wherever this woman kind of guided her hand, the nerve-ending pain would follow her fingertips. And that was a really one of the pivotal moments in my life, because I was like, I can't explain that. Like there's no explanation on why this pain would follow even into the middle of my back where I've never felt pain in my life. So I'm like, this like shoulder's fine, lower back, okay. But the center of my back, feeling these nerve endings, like something's weird. And she moved her hand 3 more times, and the nerve pain followed. And I was like, this is odd. And of course, like the mental and like battle in my mind. And so I remember reaching up and like speaking to I ended up asking my teacher, what's going on? Like, this is what I experienced. And I didn't want to scare her. She's not giving me pain. And mind you, we were like 8 people in a circle connected. And she said, well, have you ever heard of empaths? And I said, yes. And she said, okay, well, that's what was happening. And she was like, you were picking up the collective energy of the healing of everybody, and it was landing on you. I was like, no. It's kind of like, that's impossible. That's impossible.
Right.
And she was like, well, and being in that experience, I'm like, this is okay, cool. And the second part of that, when this was like a big part this weekend of learning in this course, because too many things happened that I had no explanation to. My mind could not wrap my head around on what was happening. And the second part was that we did distance Reiki. So we had a group inside and a group outside. And in the distance Reiki, well, I was kind of off in my own little world. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't even know what I'm learning, but I'm just kind of putting my hand on my leg, okay. And I remember out of nowhere, my mind was somewhere else, but I started experiencing this pain on my chin. And I remember I started licking my chin. I'm like, did I bruise myself? Did I hit myself last week? Like, why is this hurting right now? This is odd. And I was like, it's me for sure. I did something that I completely forgot about. And I remember the teacher was like, there are no crazy things. I'm like, sure, you're telling me what you're experiencing. So I'm like, this is going to sound crazy, but this is what's happening. And she's like, oh, that's interesting. She's like, well, when the girl comes back, ask her. I was like, okay, whatever you say, although I really think I must have hit myself somewhere. And so the woman came back, and then I told her, and she like wide-eyed. And she said, I got into an accident like about a week ago, and I have makeup on, but I have bruising on my chin. And this was the woman that I was working with. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no.
Uh-huh. So the proof is in the pudding.
The proof is in the pudding.
And where were you geographically or in your daily life routine when some of these items started happening for you intuitively?
Miami in my car in traffic. That was, and to this day, that's where I start, like I receive a lot of downloads. And I think it's simply because I'm in my own space and I identify as an empath, as an emotional empath. And so not having anyone typically in my car in traffic, it's just me. Or when I was walking or working out, but by myself in an energetic enclosed area where it's just me and spirit team, which I would find out later on that was them.
Spirit team, I like that.
Yeah.
And what kinds of information would come through while you're driving?
I get visions.
Okay.
And I would get visions. So I had these psychics that would tell me like, hey, these homes have bad energy. And then I remember just picturing, and if I connected by myself, like I would see this energy and where it starts and where it ends and like the encompass, and it's a lot of visuals that I would see.
Okay.
And any little nudges if I needed a crystal, like I would see the crystal. And it's like, okay, carnelian. And I'm like, okay, cool. Need to go get me a carnelian or like black tourmaline. I'm like, cool. Need to go get me a black tourmaline.
Okay.
And start researching that. Because even at that time when I would get the nudges and the knowing, I didn't know. That's where I was just starting to research things. So I started getting these guidances and in voices, which I found out later. So I hear from my left ear and I'd hear voices and see these visuals. So they would say like this. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to go research that because I have no idea.
They would give you messages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's like they wouldn't give me the answers, but they would be like, go check this out.
Point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Go read this. Go check out that book.
Got it. And would you say that up to this point, when you're driving or having these visions or messages kind of come through, that there was any necessary like preparedness or readiness that happened in your life to open you up to even these possibilities?
No. So it very much was like, okay, cool, I hear you, but I have no idea what to do, especially in the beginning. I have no idea what you're trying to tell me or what to say. Or like, where am I going from here? It was just kind of like, all right, I'm going to go research this because I don't have the answer. I don't feel like I have the answer.
So it's just like one piece of a puzzle that then you got to, or one key that you got to kind of unlock the rest of the doors on your own.
Yes.
Okay. And go ahead and share with us the story that happened in the middle of the night for you.
So that was a big pivotal moment for me. And this happened when I was around 21, 22, early 20s. And I couldn't pinpoint it exactly for you. But this was, and I didn't realize this was such a big deal until way later. But in the middle of the night, I remember feeling like there was one part which was my physical experience. And there was my dream experience. And in my physical experience, it felt like some ambulance was kind of like jotting my heart awake.
Like defib.
Or boop. Yes, like yes. And I remember cue the defibrillator. And I remember my grandma, my great-grandma had passed away at that time by then. She grabbed my hand in the dream. And I saw, and I was in this realm that was yellow and glittery and gold. And I remember seeing these gates. And she's like, here, come follow me. I'm like, okay, I don't know where we're going, but we're going. And so the moment that I passed the gate, cue defibrillator. It was kind of like I died.
So you got like jolted
Yeah,
or something.
It was a jolt. And I remember feeling just the bed and me defibrillator. And so jolt hit and I crossed the barrier. And I remember just feeling so much joy. And I was like, wow, look at this. This is so cool. And it was just very gold and just in mirrors and gold. And I was like, that's cool. And I had no idea what this place was at that point. And so we got back out. And when we got back out, the moment I crossed the barrier, cue jolt. And she looked at me when I was out in that second time and she said, you can come here. Your soul can come here. You have the ability to come here. Not everybody can, and you can. I was like, okay, cool. I have no idea where I am, but that's nice. And so then she said, okay, come, we're gonna come in one last time. And so she pulled me again and again, jolt. And then I remember waking up the next day and running to my mom. And I'm like, I died. I am sure I died a total of 3 times last night. And this is what happened. And great grandma took me to this weird place. And like, I don't even know. And fast forward, when I started exploring the angelic realms and learning about them, the angels themselves took me back to the same exact place. It happened, the crossing over happened a total of 3 times that night.
And do you feel like the number 3 in that night specifically is meaningful for you?
I'm very big on numerology and numbers and the power of them. In fact, I get a lot of 5s and 7s. And 3 for me, I don't know.
Okay. Only asking because there seems to be a pattern, especially in dream space, but dreams that really become meaningful and visionary in a sense, that if something happens 3 times, there's some sort of like link to reality. I'm not quite sure what to call it yet. But even for myself, I can relate directly to say that if I dream of somebody in any context at all, of 3 times in a row, meaning 3 nights in a row, 3 times in one night, whatever this number 3 is, 3 nights in a week, some kind of close sequencing, then I have to call them. And usually something in a dangerous, kind of more tragic pathway has occurred. And that could be anything from them falling down a flight of stairs, super random, or a car kind of backing up over their foot. And so I was just asking for you if 3 has any significance in that way, or if it has taught you anything as well. Like if something happens 3 times in a vision that you might have had since then, is it meaningful or not?
Yeah, so from what I see, if I see the number 3 consecutively, it's very much a connection to the angels and higher guides.
Okay.
So now that we're talking about it, in the experience of going through the gate 3 times, and then fast forward seeing 3 consecutively in just daily life, it's been very much a direct connection to the angels.
Okay.
Which would make sense.
As far as like differentiating between dreams that are just subconscious unwinding or visions, and if we kind of break it down in a qualitative sense of this time when your grandmother took your hand and took you to and through these gates, would you say qualitatively what the difference might be for you? That there's this unwinding thing that happens subconsciously versus this was so real. Like, what was that experience in a quality basis?
For this particular moment, it was the connection between physical world and dream world.
Meaning the shocking and the heart attack kind of feel.
100% the shocking. And for example, when I receive visions versus when I'm dreaming, there's kind of a conscious element. Like I am aware of the messages that are going on. I can process the messages and remember the messages. Versus if my brain is unwinding subconsciously, there's less of a sequence. Mm-hmm. There's less of a grounding piece, whether it is the functionality of a sentence or the chronological order of an event. Because through subconscious unwinding, in my experience, it's been there's this and there's that and there's this and people say this and people say that, but there's really nothing that kind of creates a cohesive grounding between either I'm going in intuitively or I am experiencing a vision versus am I dreaming.
And when we get into the aspects of feeling the defibrillation, the shock to the body, can you deepen us into that experience? Was it the whole body, or was it just the chest area? And how would you relate that to a nervous system relationship?
Sure. So it was the whole body from kind of like midsection above. And I remember feeling myself lift myself out of the bed, like as if anyone has seen it in the movies or anything like that, just kind of like full body kind of shock and jolt. And then if my legs were kind of just very much here and above. And yeah, you can say like root to crown, shock. And from a nervous system standpoint, I couldn't even say, because a link that I would make is like something is creating a nervous system reaction. There is not safety. There is something clicked in where it's like jump, move, like, but there was such peace in the dream. And like my parasympathetic nervous system must have been completely relaxed because there was nothing to be afraid of. This was my great grandma. She's somebody that I trust. This place felt light, and yet my body reacted in a sense of like crisis, jolt.
At a very like even pointed place of the vision. Correct. That you're crossing this threshold.
Yeah.
And did that threshold feel like spirit world? Like you're kind of going from 3D level of existence into a higher dimension, or people call it many things, but another realm or anything like that, and asking that in relationship to kind of presencing or readying the spirit or the body from the spirit realm to be able to perceive that much information.
Absolutely. And I feel like that would make sense because ever since that moment, I have been able to get in through that gate plenty of times. But it was kind of in that moment, somebody from the other side said, here, like, let me support you in this transition. Let me support you through crossing this barrier. And for my body to react in such a way that wouldn't make sense from a nervous system standpoint, but for my body to react, it would provide or even point to a readiness of like, okay, here's like a connection. Here's now a link between your body and the ability to transport yourself into this realm.
And even a grooved pathway, because it's not just like one time that might be forgettable, but time and time and time. Now it's a rooted experience, grooved in, if you will, right? Making that placement 3 times in your body system, whatever the body system it was. Now it's a known pathway. Yeah. And it sounds like you rely on that to revisit and go back to the gate or go back to the realms or get there.
Yes.
Okay. I really like the way that you said that the distinction and qualitatively between like a vision and a dream is the conscious element and the remembering. I feel like just in a relatable sense, I can call it those things too, that there's such a lucidity and a vividness about the visions that come in the dream space that just holds on. And it being a grounded, also grooved, maybe kind of pathway. How do you know about your spirit team? And do you know who they are?
So I was once guided. I went to Salem and I had a spiritual teacher suggest, do you know your guides? And I said, I know they're there, but I don't know them. She's like, okay, go find out who they are. And so I was led to guided meditations. And I really love the power of guided meditations and even hypnosis and just taking us into the subconscious and in that place of imagination, that really connecting with these beings. And so these guided meditations would say, hey, here's your guide, what's their name? And starting off, that was my first step. And like, I don't know how to do it myself. So I'm going to get a resource that's going to support me and to connect with these guides. And as I started meeting different kinds of guides and learning about them from a logical analytical standpoint, I could say, okay, so we've got our spirit guides, we've got our ancestors, we've got angels, we've got beings, we've got fairies, and just different beings from different realms. And that's how I started to get them. That's how I started to get to know them little by little. And just feeling the differences in their energy supported me in knowing, where are you from and who are you really?
So then, did you ask the questions of them directly? Where are you from and who are you really?
Yes. So
All right.
Once I got the notes from guided meditation, here's what you ask. Then when I go in and I see, and now they just kind of come to me and I'm like, who are you? Where are you from?
Nice,
nice. Why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
So I would hear, well, I was your sister in a past life. Or I'd hear, I'm an angel that's going to be with you now. And I've noticed spirit team rotates as I've gone through my life, and I experience this in my clients as well. As I've gone through my life and as they go through their life, spirit team, like, they've got shifts. So like, we take shifts. I've noticed that spirit teams, wherever like someone is in their process of life and their development, people come in and out. Like, spirit guides and teams, like, they shift. New ones come in, other ones come out, just depending on where you are. And I heard it from also a mentor. And she said the same thing. And then she explained to me, and I've seen it in my experience, it's like, because of free will, because we have this barrier as humans and ownership over our power, that we have the power to say, don't help me, as much as we have the power to say, help me. And what I have seen is in these other realms and other worlds, they require that permission.
Mm-hmm.
And they require that, hey, I am feeling depression right now and I need your support. Because otherwise, it's like they don't have that permission. And because of willpower, it is our responsibility to just ask and be very clear. Like, what's my intuitive pathway? What is my passion? Can you guide me towards it? What is the name? Like, what is your name? What things like that give that reciprocity. Because we do have the power to ask and request that support from them. Mm-hmm. And I've even seen, like, without even asking, they might not interfere, because we have the power to say yes or no.
Right. Well, who are you now in the face of intuition and coaching and using those kinds of things together to help other people? And how has realizing being an emotional empath and having intuitive abilities to sense and feel so much changed your life and or the people's lives around you?
I work with clients from a business development perspective and from an intuitive perspective, that using these tools and being able to harness and create structure to an otherwise unstructured emotional process, that there is a way forward. And what I see now, and in connection to intuition and in my experience, is that emotions are both the key. Like, emotions, I have found that emotions are both the key to intuitive connection as much as they are the block and the blockage to it. And so in the work that I do, I support my clients in working with those emotions in order to connect to our divine purpose and that divine perfection within themselves, because they know all the answers. And we hear this in the New Age industry and in our industry, we have the answers. And for me, emotions and how to navigate those are key to that connection.
Do you think intuitive experiences are reserved for only special magical people, or can anybody have that experience?
Okay, I love this question. So they are not reserved for anyone with any special powers, with anything. In fact, and this is very big in my work, working with emotions and being an emotional empath, I have found that it is emotions that kind of cloud things. And once we are able to become aware of our emotions and our responses to our emotions, we create a pathway and kind of defog intuition and what's actually there as that divine perfection. So for me, we all have that connection. We all have that intuitiveness. We all have that just special magic and signature magic to each and every single person. And it kind of gets clouded with our biological humanness,
Right,
which creates
exactly.
emotions.
Yes.
And when someone really steps into the research and the knowledge to access that intuition, and does the emotional work, which is the work,
Yes,
found,
yes, indeed it is.
then that intuitive muscle gets exercised more and more and more, and it grows, and the power grows, and that intuition then has more say than just biological emotional responses.
And I think to your point about doing the emotional work or the transformation and growth work, it creates a witness and a distancing, so the clouds of emotions can be kind of cleared out when they occur, and that we can actually have the awareness to choose and not be so reactive as a traumatic response to whatever might be happening inside ourselves, even just completely alone, or in relationship with other people, which just gives us what I call like just a sense of a neutralized kind of clarity, so that we're not just overtaken by the reactionary responses that are somewhat automatic if we haven't done the transformation and growth kind of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and learning how intuition works for you is such an awesome gift. And we appreciate all your time and all your efforts in becoming an intuitive human like you are. And good work, and keep going on your success coach and helping other people find themselves. So thank you for the work that you do in the world.